Run it, I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. Yeah, I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, run it. Ooh, I really feel it's my time.
Welcome to another episode of Big Says Conversation. Man, this day has been long overdue. I've been waiting to have this interview with my friend, my homie, my ace boom, Michael Clay. Man, welcome to the set, man.
Man, Sam, we appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir.
First podcast. What can I say? We in the building, y'all. We are in the building.
Yeah.
And one thing I can say, I commend you. I definitely applaud you for this setup. This setup is amazing. Like, you don't understand, man. This was a dream deferred but never forgotten. And look where we at right now.
Hey, bro, I appreciate it, man. You know, I want to go back to my introduction video, man. So, in the introduction video, in the very beginning, you see me driving in that van. I don't think people understand. I was on my way to your house. And when you first told me about Brian Crawford and Jason McDonald and all those guys about setting this up, and we had a long conversation, man. We talked about DJing, we talked about financial management, real estate investment. All those conversations happened that day. And from that point, man, we just kind of blossomed out, man. One of the things I'll never forget that you said, man, you said, hey, man, you know, just got to put it in, talk it into existence.
Exactly.
And then at the end of the day, after all the talking said and done, you got to execute.
That's right.
And that's been a word that you used that has stuck with me from the very time that we first met, man. Like, you got to execute.
That's right.
So, man, I don't want to make this about me, man. First, congratulations on your retirement.
Appreciate that.
Congratulations on your job working at the Third Meth, and congratulations on just your phenomenal takeover of the DJ scene here in Okinawa, man.
Man.
How does that feel, man?
You know what? I would say blessed, to be honest. This is 100% blessed. You know,
awesome.
It's only through God, you know. And I don't look at it as being a takeover. I look at it as just being here, shedding that light, shedding that love. You know, with all the DJs out here in Okinawa, we all got a passion to bring entertainment to everybody that's out here. And that's what we're here for. And that's what I appreciate. And that's what I'm doing. You know, if you, like God says, man, if you got a talent, you got to put it out there in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no purpose to kind of hold on to it, you know. The goal is to put it out there and let the universe hear it. And then, you know, as a result, you know, you blossom as a result of that. So. Man,
I tell you what, man, you definitely do it, man. You cannot go to Kadena Air Force Base to the Rockers Club and people not know who DJ Clayway is, you know. So, man, I want to do a little transition real quick, man. How was your transition from being active duty military to a civilian status, man?
You know what? You know, I served in the Air Force, 23 years. Mm-hmm. And for most people, being in the Air Force or being in any institution for that long of a time, you're going to be nervous initially when you walk out. But for me, I don't think I was nervous at all. I had a conversation with an actual representative over at the Airman Infantry Readiness Center. Mm-hmm. And she told me straight up, she said, you were probably the most prepared person that she's ever met. Yeah. I mean, at least she told me that. Yeah. And I think that's just what it was about. Yeah. Just being prepared. I feel like I prepared my whole entire career on getting out of the Air Force.
Oh, absolutely.
Not saying that the Air Force is bad, but I felt like I didn't want to be dependent on anything. Yeah. My goal was to set myself up and put myself in a position so that way if I had to walk out, I could walk out at any time. You know, when I was in the Air Force, I used to teach finance. I used to teach it to pretty much everyone. There really was no limit on who I taught finance to. And actually teaching finance and having that discussion with them, I always said it. I always said this one thing. I said, but you're in the Air Force for 4, 6, 8, 10, 20, and 30 years. Yeah. You eventually have to get out of the military.
Exactly.
You know, and with that, I made that notion of make sure they understood that you need to prepare when getting out. Yeah. So that's kind of how I looked at it, and that's what I've always done. So when I walked out, there really was no fear. There really was no nervousness. It was more of a, okay, what's next? Yeah. And how do I want to now live my life? Now I will say it's still a work in progress. It's still a journey. I'm having fun. It's been a lot of fun. When sometimes they say when work feels like you know, like a job, you know, well, fun stuff feel like a job. But it's been amazing. Families here over here in Okinawa as well. Mm-hmm. So that's always a blessing as well. Yeah. And also I'll say that with that to caveat on that. Just to have your family here with you is important because you know you talk about being in the military. Military is not an easy career, as we all know, and you know just being in there, just going through all the trials and tribulations of deploying and being with your family for birthdays and Christmases and everything like that. It's tough. It's really tough toll on your family, and just to be able to make it to retirement and actually retire and still have your family in place is a blessing by itself. So I do appreciate that part.
Oh man, let me tell you, man, you make it look easy, man. But as family men and entrepreneurs and working men, we know that it's a constant juggling act, man. You got to find that time, that balance, man, to where, okay, how much time am I putting into work? Am I putting the necessary enough time into the family, man? Because you got to take care of family, man. So yeah, that's a job in itself.
You know what? And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you straight up. Like, I think for me personally, like, there's some areas where I definitely know I struggle at.
Yeah.
And I said it because you brought up the notion of being a DJ, being a full-time DJ, and also being a full-time employee.
Yeah.
Well, working at an organization, I've worked, just a couple months ago, I was working, going to work at 7 o'clock in the morning, get off work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and get ready to go do a party from 5 to 12 o'clock at night. And where's family involved in that transaction? So I mean, that's the hardest part, and I've kind of tried to switch my strategy just a little bit when it came to DJing, to try to spend a little bit more time with family, and even then switching it more from a club setting to more of a mobile DJ setting. Still was tough, because it seems like once I stopped doing one thing, more piled on to it. So it's like, God's only gonna give you what you can handle.
Right.
But I do feel like there's a struggle. I'm still working on that. I'm still. Hey
man, we chop it up on a regular basis, man. So I hear when you're doing your practice sessions. I hear when you say, hey man, I'm just chilling today, man. Me and the fam, we doing ... So I can definitely appreciate that, man. But I think that is one of those things where most men, I'll say most go-getters that's trying to accomplish something, trying to find that balance, man. And is there an easy answer for that? I don't think there is.
You know what? I feel like that's the hardest challenge, especially for an entrepreneur. And I think this is it. As men, we want to go out there, we want to achieve, we want to accomplish. But at what expense? What sacrifice is there? And I sit down and think about it right now myself. To be honest. I just a great example. I talked to the wife today about getting a studio. She's like, the only thing she can think of is the DJ lifestyle and having a studio and everything like that. And I understand that. I look at this as a business, and I try not to be labeled as a DJ. I don't want that label. I think of myself as more of an entrepreneur, as an investor, and how everything is in sync. Everything I do is in sync, And not only that, but I try to master it. Not necessarily master, but I want to. This is a product that I offer to my customer, to the customer that we serve. So I want to make sure that we're giving them a quality product and make sure it's tight as possible. I look at it as what would I want to purchase, and that's how I try to offer it. But again, with that, how does the family look at that? All they can see is you being away from family all the time. You got to do this event, you got to do this event. So they really don't see all the hours you put into it or the work you do to try to be successful at something. So I definitely feel like that's a struggle. As much as I try to bring the wife out or try to show her that, hey, this is what I'm doing and I'm doing it for us, and like how everything's in sync, it's still sometimes considered a challenge, or they really just don't understand it. So for me personally, I try not to get too stuck in that. I got to leave it to God on that one. You know what I mean? Because you're a vessel through Him. You know what I mean? And I look at it like whatever He wants me to do in life is what I got to do. And I can't not live my life. I think that's the one thing I did tell the wife. I think feel like I'm on this earth to just live. You know what I mean? I need to live the best I can live. And I look at it like once you're gone, ain't no coming back. So if I'm here, I might as well just go all out and just do it. There's no limitation to what we do.
So, with that being said, man, a big shout out to the wives and the families, man, for the support that they give us while we try and do our entrepreneur thing, man. So with that being said, I want to kind of go back to what you said, man. You people know you. Well, a lot of people know you as DJ Clayway, but man, the guy that I know, the Clay that I know, man, you way more than a DJ, man. One of the first things I realized, man, when we talked about it, man, we started out. And this is when I was still working with the VA as a transition assistant manager. So we were right on finances and real estate. Because I was like, look, man, I've owned a home in the past, but now I'm looking at doing real estate investment. And one of the things you say, and one of the things that I remember you saying to me, man, just the numbers make sense. Crunch the numbers. And the way you broke it down, and I thought I had a good understanding of finances already, but you took it to a whole nother level, man. So I really appreciated that in our conversations, man, because one thing I do appreciate about our conversations it's no foolishness.
Yeah.
You know, we have a good time, we enjoy ourselves, you know, but it's always tied into, well, what's the next move?
Yep.
It's not about contentment.
Yep.
Being content and relaxing the situation. Okay, you doing this, you spinning, you DJing, you podcasting, you that. What's next?
Yep.
Every time we had that conversation, it's all about what's next. So that keeps me in a position of, hey, I'm about to have a conversation with Clay. I need to make sure that we move in this direction.
That's right.
With the conversation, because man, it's always something, man. One of the things I remember, we got together at your place. You was showing me some of your DJ stuff, and you was doing a practice session. You had just got your video arcade,
Yep.
and you had some young men over.
Yep.
And I thought that was so impressive, man. And the fact that we sat down and was just having conversations about financing, management, and just the whole, you know, I know you're huge on acquisitions,
Yep.
about putting the right people in place,
That's right.
to those connections, man. I thought that was so powerful.
Yep.
And I said, man, that's something we definitely need to do more of.
That's right.
Hence the reason why I wanted to do this type of podcast,
Yep.
to be a platform to share those stories so people can hear those nuggets, man, because you never know, man. We could be having a casual conversation, man. But before we even started the podcast today, if we had been recording then,
Yep.
we was like, oh man, that would have been amazing.
Yep.
But you know, it is what it is, man.
Man, I'm gonna have to say I appreciate the kind words, man. You know what? It's crazy that you say that because everything you just said just now was kind of it's facts. You know, regarding the finance side of the house. I put my cell phone over here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because just yesterday, somebody reached out to me just yesterday, literally, and they pretty much said the exact same thing you just said just now. And it was crazy because it came out of nowhere. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think the last time me and this individual talked was probably about maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And an email, he just texted me literally on Facebook yesterday. I'm looking at it right now as we speak on my phone. And I just want to read literally what he just said yesterday because it was interesting. And it made me kind of sit back and think about it for a second. He said, "Big bro, just want to take a minute to say thank you. You were the first to teach me about financial literacy, put my money away into interest-bearing accounts. A lot of jewels." He said, "Now I manage my own LLC and S corporation, and lots of steps in between, but you were the first to school me." He said, "Thank you. I always appreciate your input and hope for continued guidance and motivation." He said, "I retired. I don't have to work a 9 to 5. I get to do what I love like you do doing the VJ venture. Bless up, bro." So he said that, you know, and he's a lot older than I am, you know, but, you know, at that time, that's all I taught, finance, you know, and I tried to sit down and I think about that because, you know, that's why I talk about not being a label as a DJ because I forgot my first hobby is finance. You know, my bachelor's is in finance as well. I was going for my certified financial planners license. And, you know, that's the biggest goal that I had, you know, entrepreneurship, definitely, number one. And just create a financial environment that allowed us to continue to build, you know. And that's why I said that everything is in sync, you know. For me personally, I've done all different methods from real estate to stock investing to you name it. It's interesting that it's like I've been successful at all of them, you know. But I think the key is just to do it. You know what I mean? And once you execute, now it's all calculated. I don't just take risks without just doing it. But you know, it's like once you put yourself into it, just like this room right here. It's like once you get engulfed into it, it just manifests itself. Right. You know, and I think that's really the biggest factor. Just, you know, what holds us back is just ourselves. You know, and for me, I've been successful because I've just done it. You know, and I never looked at the risks associated with it, or like, you know, what happens if I do this, or what would I lose? I just looked at it as if I lost. Well, it was the risk that I was willing to accept, and that's how I proceeded. So, but the interesting part, since we're talking finances, I got to go back to it because it's been a while. You know what? We're in a podcast and we here. You know what? I mean, this is a long time in the making, right? We've been working on this since 2019, y'all. 2019, y'all. This is how long we work on this stuff right here. Again, like I said, this is a dream deferred but never forgotten. And this is an honor to be here on this first podcast. And we're in the very beginning. This is the very first podcast that he's doing right now, live with, you know, another individual, and I'm the one, right? So it's only right that I spit facts, right? So in our finance, we talk about getting out of the rat race, you know, financial literacy, and with that, you know, it's like, you know, I always, when I sit down and teach finance, I always ask the question, what's your goal? What's the overall objective? What do you want to accomplish, you know? And like I explained to people, I said, you know, the goal isn't just to work for someone else. The goal is to put yourself in a position so that way you don't have to work for someone else. And what does that look like? Well, in getting out of the rat race is to have enough money coming in from your assets to make up for what you spend a month.
Right.
You know, that should be your goal.
Right.
So, a great example, you're making $3,000 a month, and you have $3,000 coming in from your real estate, your stocks, your savings account. Then guess what? You don't have to work anymore. So, like when I was teaching the Air Force, you know, your goal while you're in should be to buy those assets. I always use a quote from the Bible, and it says, "Go to the ant you sluggard and consider his ways to be wise.
Okay.
He has no overseer, no commander, no ruler. What he does, he stacks in the summer to prepare for the winter."
Right.
So I always looked at that and heeded to that, and I always prepare, and I always, you know, accumulate and save and look at additional assets and make sure it's all in sync, so that way when things does change, you know, everything is.
Man, let me tell you, man, that's powerful, man. I remember when we had that conversation. Hence the reason why when we were talking about purchasing my first investment property, one of the things that you mentioned that I thought was very powerful at the time was like, you know, what was the purpose?
Yep.
And each one of those investments right now has a purpose.
Yep.
So Jasmine and CJ,
Yep.
you know, they're in their young years right now.
Yep.
This is legacy stuff. You know, this is going to prepare their this is paying for all of their college life. You know, I'm like, hey, so there's a purpose behind each one of these investments.
That's right.
So yeah, that's huge.
You know what? Not only that, but think about this podcast. I mean, I know you guys out here looking in the audience and everything, but look at the podcast. This is an artifact, right? And what it says is this is going to be here. It's going to live whether we're here or not. You know, and I think that's the most important part. Putting this out there into the world, so that way when we're gone, and there's still things that remains behind that your grandkids can look at.
Absolutely.
Your kids can look at and see. You know what? That's what we put out there in the world. You know, our legacy. So that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Putting up this out there.
Man, you know, I want to shift gears a little bit. One of the things that people get caught up is like, well, they see the finished product.
Yep.
You know, they see, man, Clay's doing this thing. You know, he's DJing, he's a veteran, he's got this and that, whatever. As he said, you know, he's retired, he's an entrepreneur, he's doing that. You know, he's stepping into this world of podcasting. You know, he's doing big things. But what they don't understand is the origin. And one of the things that I was blessed to have opportunities, you know, you're from Baltimore, and you told me how you came up, man, about your education from the very beginning. Like, man, it wasn't no easy path. You know, you had to navigate, man. Can you share a little bit of that, man? Yeah,
come from the streets of Baltimore City. Yeah, no joke. You know, definitely humble beginnings.
Yes.
Use that as a word that you know we'll say for this podcast. But you know, in that instance, when I sit back, I have no regrets. I take nothing back.
Right.
And I look at the whole scenario as being blessed.
Yeah.
You know, because I was able to go through that first, and it gave me the understanding to see what's like when people struggle, see what's like not to have.
Right.
So for me personally, I appreciate things like that. For me, man, what can I say? Dropped out of high school. I remember being in 11th grade. They was like, you need to go back to the 9th grade. You know, literally, you know, because I used to, you know, skip school from the 9th grade until I got to 11th grade. So they said you need to go back to the 9th grade. And I pretty much just dropped out completely, you know. I remember my aunt talking to me, she said, you know, well, what do you want to do? And she pretty much gave me free reign to do whatever I wanted to do. And I ended up going to Job Corps, get my GED and high school diploma. Now I got master's degree, working with second master's degree, project management certification, bachelor's, and associates. But the difference is I appreciate education. I value it a lot more because I know what it's like not to have education. But being in an environment, it allowed me to not be in a box. You know, having all the freedom to go out there and just think and do whatever I wanted to do at that time with no limitations. There was no restraints, no anything. Now, I can say everything I did was great. I did a lot of interesting stuff. I'll just call it that. However, it taught me how to take risks and not be afraid to take risks. Which I realized, being a leader in the United States Air Force, I realized that sometimes that was some of the difficulties that people had, you know, to get outside of that box and to think different than how they normally think. Coming up from Baltimore, you had no choice. You know, you had to be smooth, you know, you had to think, you know, and react. And I think that it helped contribute greatly to my success in the Air Force. You know, not only success in the Air Force, but also as an entrepreneur and a leader and a parent and father. It helped because I'm able to think and react a lot quicker, and to think through situations, and just kind of just sit down and kind of assess things a little bit different. So I definitely appreciate Baltimore for that. I take nothing back. I enjoy it. This is all to all my Baltimore people out there. You know, that's another thing. I get a lot of support from everybody in Baltimore because they know the struggle. They know where I came from, and they know it's like, you just call me Skinny Mike. But still skinny. I didn't change. But it was a lot of respect, a lot of love, and when I go back, it's still always that love because they know where I came from.
Right.
They see who I am today, and you know, it's a lot of respect. But being in that environment also, it doesn't allow me to stay in the same position. It doesn't allow me to be content.
Right.
Because I know it's a lot of things that we can accomplish, and you know how we use the vessel to do so.
Yeah, I definitely wanted you to touch on that, man, because I think some people get caught up on what they see right now. They see the present, and they're like, well, man, he's already there. You know, well, you know, it wasn't easy. You know, there was definitely some, like you said, some navigation going on from the early stages to present day. So, yeah, that was very important, man. I wanted to set that tone, and I wanted you to share that so people can have that understanding that, you know, regardless of where you are right now, you know, you can still achieve, and it's all about, you know, putting that mindset together, you know, and making it happen, man. And like you always say, man, execute. You got to get out there and execute.
That's right.
One of the things that I heard Steve Harvey say, and I'll quote Steve Harvey, man, you never know if you can fly until you jump.
Oh yeah.
Now you may hit some bumps along the way, but man, until you spread those wings, man, you're never gonna know if you can soar or not. You know,
it's quite interesting that you brought up Steve Harvey. That's one of my actually favorite talk show hosts, and I was looking at one of his podcasts earlier. As a matter of fact, I know we talked about Steve Harvey in the past with the 400 goals.
Right.
Well, actually, we just got the 500 goals.
Right.
Right. And wow, if there's anything I can share in this podcast, it will be that 500 goals, and I'm sure you probably can add a clip in it as well. But you talk about how a person's mind is not conditioned to think that way, you know, and really to write down all the goals. So I did that. I think I was like at 80-something goals. And the crazy part is when I start writing down goals, oh my goodness, it's insane. And DJing was one of those goals. Everything I've done was pretty much the goals I wrote down.
I remember looking at the list.
But it's insane because it manifests itself.
Yeah.
And it's insane because I accomplished so many goals that I had to create a list for completed goals.
Right.
Because you accomplished so many goals. So it was just about putting it out there. And it didn't matter what it was. I don't care what it is in this world that you want to achieve. Put out there, write it down, and then watch it manifest. And the thing is, because you brought it into existence. Right. But that's one thing that Steve Harvey talked about. And I definitely recommend, if you haven't got a chance to look at that video, please do so, because that is probably one of my favorite videos to look at.
I checked it out, man. It is powerful, man. You know, my second episode, man, I talked about my mindset model, RAIN. You know, recognizing your mindset, analyzing your mindset, implementing positive thoughts to influence your mindset, and then nourishing your mindset. One of the things that I said was one of the most important aspects of that mindset model was influence your mindset. You know, and in that, it's about, you know, surrounding yourself with positive people. That's right. And doing those things. And you're one of those people that I surround myself. And I got hundreds of people in my contact list, hundreds of people on my Facebook, man. But it's only about 5 or 6 that I call on a regular basis. And you're one of those 6, man. So, because sometimes, you know, right now the alpha male thing is huge right there. Everybody's talking about the alpha male. But even alpha males need to be reaffirmed sometimes. And sometimes you have to be around other people doing positive things. So my thing is I try and surround myself with positive people, reading books, and just absorbing knowledge. You and I both are huge on education, man. So in order to get to a place, get to know a thing, you got to understand and learn a thing. And this whole podcast, man, is a learning process for me, man, because I shared in my Q&A session, this is outside of my comfort zone. But it's one of those things like, you got to spread your wings, man, and see where it goes, man.
You know what? And this, like I said again, I applaud everything your whole entire journey. Because look at this, you're right. We're here. You know, I think just being positive is just natural, right? I think You know, even if it was just you, you know, you could be that light for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Especially if somebody going through some darkness in their life and everything like that. I mean, this is definitely a challenging time regarding mental health and everything like that. But you know, sharing that positivity, just that smile, you know, makes it easy for someone else that we don't even think about sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, growing up, man, people used to always say, man, you know, Big Sid is a happy dude, man. You know, he's always smiling, whatever. But you know, they don't know what's behind that smile. And especially throughout my military career, you know, I've seen a lot of things. 26 years in the military, most of which was in special operations. So, mental health is serious, man. And you mentioned that, and I think not enough people. I don't want to say not enough people understand. I think now with the social media and more of this stuff brought to light, people have become more and more aware of how serious it is, especially with men. You know, and I think as men, we have a tendency to internalize a lot of things. So one of the things that one of the messages that I want to put out is, hey man, don't be afraid to share and open up. You know, but with that being said, you got to find the right people to share.
Yeah, you know what though? At the same time though, don't be afraid to put it out there.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't know who or what or how they can help you.
Right.
You know, and I think that's the biggest thing. You know, we all put out in this world for a reason, right? You don't know who you would cross paths with or when you would cross paths with that person. I just try to remain steadfast. I don't really think about a whole lot when it comes to that. I remember mental health. I remember the first time I met somebody that worked in mental health in the military. And I asked him, I said, what do you do? And he was like, my job is mental health. And I'm like, what is that? Because at that time I never heard of mental health. I never even thought about it. Never thought of it even being an issue. Especially coming from the streets of Baltimore, it wasn't a thing. But today, you know, like, you know, during the COVID times and everything like that, I realized that's the next in line with nurses, you know, mental health counselor, you know, and, you know, being essential a couple times, you know, seeing that, you know, that issue, I noticed that that's one thing that's missing in the United States. You know, that's definitely one thing that we focus on a lot in the States. The mental health aspect. I don't think it's enough providers, and I feel like it's almost like a luxury to have someone that can help. You know, you can go to and talk if you got issues. And I feel like that's what more effort needs to be focused on. Helping the individuals.
Well, I tell you what, man. Hence the reason, part of the reason why this platform exists, man. Because I would like to make sure that, you know, some of the guests, to include yourself, man, as we sit here and we chop it up, man, in these conversations, we let people know that, hey, we're human. There's a level of vulnerability here, and people can feel comfortable knowing that, hey, I'm here to listen. You know, and we're here to embrace that type of stuff, and in that sharing, you know, there can be healing with other people as well. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm hoping that's at least that's one of my goals for this particular podcast, man.
Well, you know what? I mean, you already started. I mean, this is key. you already started the process, and I think I kind of go back to what I said before. You only got one life, and this is it. You know, this is not any coming back to it. So while you're here, take advantage of every opportunity that's available. You know, you definitely want to have those pillars. You know, like I said, the mental health pillar, the financial pillar, you know, the physical pillar, everything like that. But live. You know, that's what I can say. Just live, enjoy life, and be successful as you can possibly be. And success is defined by what you feel is successful. You know, what my feelings towards success may be totally different what you want. But we here, you know, and there's no reason to feel negative or dissatisfied by anything. We should be able to enjoy it and live, you know, and that's what it's about. And that's what the DJ, and that's what, you know, working and everything. It's not about being the best DJ. That's not what I'm focused on doing. The goal is just to be out there and enjoy it, have fun, know what you like to do. And if people enjoy it, they enjoy it, you know. And then you move on to do something else that you enjoy. But that's what you should be doing. You should be able to live the life, because like I said, once it's all said and done, that is it. There's no coming back to this world. So the goal is definitely to enjoy.
Right. So I know you have your list of things to that you've already accomplished and things that you're accomplishing, man. Like I said, man, veteran, family man, you're working full time, you're doing the DJ. So my question is, what's next for Michael Clay?
I'm gonna have to say mergers and acquisitions.
Okay.
And I say that because I don't think a lot of focus has been on that. I got a project manager, well, my P&P certification. I got that achieved, accomplished. But my second master's is focused on acquisitions right now.
Okay.
And I do a lot of that now with my current job. But I don't think enough focus and emphasis has been placed on acquiring
Right.
assets. And when I mean by assets, I'm talking about commercial real estate,
Right.
Multifamily properties. Look at acquiring businesses. Doesn't matter where the businesses is at.
Yeah.
So focus on entrepreneurship. Look at a lot of different video like profit, things like that.
Right.
M&A. Just in talking about just acquiring just everything. So when we look at big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, some of those establishments, they all acquire.
Yes.
Google and everything like
Yeah.
that. You may go out there and build a company, but what they'll do is they'll go out there and buy out that company,
Right.
and absorb that company to their parent company. So I don't think that we focus on that a lot. So really, my overall focus has been building that foundation.
Okay.
So I use real estate as my foundation.
Right.
Stocks and investing, that was all to pay off the properties, so I can have a foundation. So what that means is now I got an infinite stream of income coming in.
Right.
Even the DJ funds, all that money is in sync.
Yeah.
I don't just DJ for fun.
Right.
I have fun doing it. I have a lot of fun DJing, but I don't just DJ for fun.
Oh, yeah.
All that's with the overall objective of building the foundation. And once the foundation is established, then I can go out there and actually acquire and buy out restaurants and bars and businesses and things like that. And that way, now what am I doing now? I'm offering jobs and creating jobs.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest issue that I saw growing in Baltimore City.
Right.
Not enough opportunity.
Right.
And there was not enough people that I could go to actually get hired. And I feel like that's one issue that we lack, the financial understanding.
Right.
So I think we'll probably go back to teaching finance again. I think that's definitely something that needs to be done. Maybe write a book in that area as well. But I definitely feel like the entrepreneurship got to be the focus, mergers and acquisitions. That's going to be the next objective.
Man, that's amazing, man. I remember our last scouting mission where we went out and looked at a couple of potential spots, man. So, I regardless of whatever it is, I know it's going to be successful, man, because that's just the way we navigate, man. So, and I love it, man. So, man, I tell you what, man, this interview has been long overdue, and it's definitely been my pleasure, man. Man, you and I, we can chop it up for hours, man. When we've done it, we've sat down and chopped it up to like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. We broke bread, we played music, man, and in the midst of all that, we also had great conversations, man.
Right.
But man, today was super special for me because, like I said, man, I couldn't have done this, man. I couldn't have done this podcasting thing without having you on, man, because we talked this thing in existence back in 2019.
That's right.
And here we are today, man.
That's right.
So, man,
that's definitely blessings.
Man, but before we wrap it up, man, any closing words, man?
You know what? Yeah, definitely. Because this is for y'all. I talk about as we talked in the past, I talk about the power of leverages, right? And I said there's 3 leverages in this world. I said the first leverage is leveraging time, right? So when you go to McDonald's, you got somebody that actually works at McDonald's. And what are they doing? The owner uses that person's time to make their money, right? And I use the character donkey in the owners as a mythology, as an example. I say, the owner uses the donkey and he puts the carrot in front of the donkey. And the only thing the donkey can see is the illusion, the carrot that's in front of him, while the owner goes wherever he wants to go to in life, right? So I talk about that and use that analogy in the format of time. They use the power of the leverage of time to make their money, right? Just we don't understand that leverage. The second leverage, when you go to any city, you see the tallest buildings. What are they? Insurance companies, investment companies, and banks, right? Life insurance, right? And what are they doing? They're using leverage of money. What they do is you put your money in the savings account and you earn 1% interest, if that. While they take around and use that same capital that you just put into that bank and turn around and give it to someone else in the form of a house loan and charge them 5% interest, right? Okay. What do they make? They make the spread. So you use the power of leverage to build them more capital, right? So that's one thing we don't take advantage of.
Right.
And then the last leverage, I always say a mile one stretch will never regain its original dimension, right? Leverage of knowledge, right? I can take a book, read that book, we'll sit down with you and chop it up like we've been doing, and I can gain information that I wouldn't have known before, right? So again, a mile one stretch will never regain its original dimension. So I can learn something today and be better off in the future. So understand that last leverage. And I think that's the biggest thing, just make sure that we use that and maximize those leverages for our own purposes. So we can continue building and living this life that we need to be living.
Man, that is amazing, man. You already talked about going back into finances and doing some stuff. I see another episode coming up, bro.
And we here.
And we're going to change the setting, and then we're just going to do Michael Clay financial introduction, man. So I see it in the making, And I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the books, and we can schedule it up, man.
You know, he said it. You know, we just gonna make it happen. You know, that's what we talk about. We talk about executing. That's what we do.
Man, I appreciate it, man. With that being said, man, excuse me, I'm gonna wrap this up, man. As always, man, take care of yourself, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Peace.
Run it, I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then it go off.